So Blizzard have released a very big video for their Phase 3 preview, and I'm going to summarise that in a lot less time and cover all the things that you probably missed. Pretty much everything that I predicted in my previous video has in fact come correct. The new raid is going to be Sunken Temple, and it will be an 8 boss raid that is 20 man. As usual, there will be totally new items, some actual new item sets very similar to Nomagon, new epics. The quest rewards are going to be up leveled not just for the instance like the level 50 class quests, but also for the other dungeons that are around about that level. The most interesting thing that they covered is how there's actually going to be a new boss called the Festering Rot Slime that's actually going to patrol the rings around, which is probably going to be quite funny in certain raid groups because it's probably going to come up behind people. And for Jamal the Priest boss, they've basically indicated that there's going to be alternating mechanics each time that you go to that fight, so it's going to be a little bit different every time you go to that fight. They confirmed that Arankius is going to be in the raid, but they didn't really confirm 100% whether he is going to be the last boss. We may see a different boss instead. We're also adding a weird gun axe, which is, I imagine, fairly similar to the Decapitator from Karazhan. It will have a ranged effect, even though it is a melee weapon. By the way guys, if you're looking to pass better in Nomagon, I've made a very detailed boss-to-boss guide. Subscribers can get a preview of that video right now. If you just subscribe to the channel, check out my channel trailer, and if you want to get the full guide, you have to become a member of the channel. The tier tokens will be a little bit different this time round. There's going to be multiple different tier tokens for certain class groups. They have reworked Dragon's Call to make it more powerful. It does look more like a tank weapon, but I reckon it's probably still going to be quite viable for DPS. It depends how often it actually drops and how much it actually sims on DPS meters. Obviously the Drake that does get summoned, and it does actually have a new glow effect. And as usual, there are some gimmick items. There's this sacrificial dagger that you can use, and it basically means there's going to be a 50-50 chance whoever you use it with that they die or you die. There's also this one that transforms you into a critter, and apparently there's going to be way more, and these are the most boring and the most interesting ones have yet to be revealed. They also confirmed, like the previous phase, they are going to rework the dungeon loot, very likely adding spell power here and there to certain items that didn't previously have it. Now there's some class runes. What's very funny about all the class runes is Blizzard always say, oh, don't look at the data mined info because they're not going to be correct, take it with a pinch of salt. And then they proceeded to reveal that every rune that has been data mined has actually been revealed. So all of these runes that we're going to see, we already know they were going to be put into the game because they have been data mined. Druid get Gore, which allows them to reset the cooldown on certain abilities when they use Lacerate or Swipe or Maul, and they also get improved Bark Skin. This means it can be cast on friends and it no longer penalises your melee or spell casting speed. Hunters have Lock and Load. Every time your trap is triggered, your next shot ability within 20 seconds costs no mana and it does not incur a cooldown. Focus Fire allows pets to get frenzy stacks, and then those frenzy stacks can be absorbed onto the player to speed up his ranged attack speed. It's going to be interesting to see how that interacts with the Beast Mastery talent Frenzy. Mages get Deep Freeze and the new Balefire Bolt. No surprises here, this has been data mined. This is the new ability that if you cast it too much, you reduce your spirit, and then when you have 0 spirit, you end up dying. Obviously the more you cast it, the more damage you deal. Bit of a weird funky ability, that one. Pretty cool though. Paladins get improved Sanctuary and Wrath, again to nobody's surprise. But Wrath is a little bit different. Now your Consecration ticks actually can crit, and also the damage from, Exorcism, Holy Shock, Holy Wrath and everything can gain crit chance equal to your melee crit chance. I think Blizzard are really trying to push this kind of hybrid Ret and Shockedin Paladin, especially as they did hint that earlier, which we'll talk about later. Priest get Pain and Suffering. Basically just means that your Mind Flayer will keep your Shadow Word Pain at its maximum duration, and we also get Surge of Light. Whenever you get a crit, your next Flash Heal or Smite cast within 15 seconds will be instant. This is a Wrath-Lich King classic talent that people are very familiar with. Rogues are getting Honor Amongst Thieves. Basically whenever party members crit, they also gain a combo point. Now this is a rune here that wasn't data mined. It's called Cut to the Chase. Basically your Eviscerate or Envenom ability will refresh the duration on Slice and Dice or your Blade Dance. There's also a new ability that wasn't data mined called Mental Dexterity for the Shaman, and I'm having a difficulty understanding this one, to be honest. I don't know whether it's going to be ridiculously overpowered or not. So dealing damage with your melee weapons increases your attack power by 100% of your intellect, and your spell damage and healing by 30% of your total attack power and this lasts for 1 minute. I don't know what kind of cooldown this is going to have, but it literally apparently lasts 1 minute. Apparently the shaman needed to be buffed even more in this Season of Discovery, even though they are like the absolute god class so far. We're also going to get Riptide, and people affected by Riptide will get their chain heals buffed on them by 25%. I think it's finally time for the Affliction Warlock to shine, because now all dots are going to crit with the Pandemic rune. Oh, and they're also going to get Felguard. Imagine an Affliction Warlock with Felguard also. Or even a Destruction Warlock with Felguard. That is going to be utterly mental. And we also hinted that there's another new demon in the game that we're going to be able to summon next phase. I don't know whether that's going to be like a temporary thing or a permanent pet. I would be very surprised if it is a permanent pet, because that would be really cool. Now, Warrior, they get their 2 data mined runes, Taste of Blood and Sword and Board. We know these abilities from, Wrath of the Lich King Classic, but the real oddball here is they're actually getting Gladiator stance. So this will change the vibe of the Warrior totally in next phase, and I think it was honestly needed. Particularly in PvP, because basically when you're in this stance and you've got a sword and shield equipped, obviously any one-handed weapon, you can also use any ability that requires, is restricted to a specific stance. Gladiator stance will just allow you to use everything all at once. A fully unlocked warrior like this is just going to be an absolute beast in PvP, providing that damage buff is significant enough to make a one-handed weapon pack as much of a punch as a two-hander. That's actually a good segue to start talking about the new PvP changes. So I've been asking for this for a while. They are actually adding new PvP sets, so people who are playing PvP now will actually have something to work for in PvP. They can exclusively do PvP content to progress in PvP. They don't have to do raids in order to get the best PvP gear. These are going to be big 6-piece sets as well with PvP bonuses. Also, they're introducing starter PvP sets, basically very similar to how the TBC factions had them, and there's going to be a new faction that provides that called the Emerald Warden faction. And it looks like the main World PvP event is still going to be Blood Moon next phase, because they're adding new rewards for level 50 for the Blood Moon event, and also providing new Massacre coins, so it's going to be a totally new currency. The old currency is retiring, and it will expire entirely 2 weeks after the launch. You will also be able to buy Honor with the coin, so you can farm Honor by doing the PvP event. And they've also introduced some special weapons which are PvP themed. For instance, a throwing weapon for Warrior that will actually immobilize a target for 5 seconds. Now the new World Event, as far as I understand it, it isn't PvP focused, but that doesn't mean that PvP won't happen at this event. I think it very inevitably will, and I think it could be pretty chaotic, to be honest. It really depends. So the new event is Nightmare Incursions. Basically, at the Emerald Portals, they're going to be swarmed with loads of enemies that you're going to go and farm. I presume it's going to be very similar to kind of like the Legion Invasion event in the Legion pre-patch. Apparently there's going to be loads of repeatable level 25 to 50 content. It's going to provide reputation, loads of reputation rewards, and also experience points. The most interesting of this has to be the spell power proc ring, similar to the AQ40 rings, and my prediction is it probably is going to be best in slot. And now for professions. So there's going to be a new profession quest chain, basically carrying on from the previous quest chains. They hinted that there's going to be new epic shoulder items, some engineering braces. I don't know what that's going to be, whether it's just going to be a fat epic item or it's going to have some kind of gimmick. I mean, that would be on point with engineering items. There's also going to be a reusable alchemy flask finally. We also alluded to how recipe costs are very likely going to be, well, non-existent when it comes to raw gold. And that also goes for the previous profession recipes from previous raid tiers. Now, profession specializations are going to be available, and you can level your professions up to level 300. They also hinted that there's going to be a new quest to obtain something very similar to the mixology specialization, where if you craft certain potions, you will sometimes proc and get some extra potions. Lastly, let's talk about some big system updates and what they have hinted for level 60 endgame. So first of all, they have confirmed Dual Spec is going to be in the game. They did not reveal how much it's going to cost. There's just going to be this dwarf guy who is going to provide it. They make this like really big joke about not making it a big deal, and they should have left it out of the presentation. I honestly think that they actually should have done that. It would have been so much better if there was a really long like riddle and puzzle game where you had to discover how to unlock Dual Spec, and once it's unlocked on your server, it would be unlocked for everyone on the server. They really should have made it a server community event for everyone to try and go out and discover and reveal and unlock this. They confirmed that the previous world buffs, again, not going to be usable at level 50, and there is going to be a new world buff similar to the Zanza consumables apparently. Also, there's a number of items in the game where you can actually get from level 40 to 49 pretty much instantaneously by just turning in the same quest over and over again, and you can prepare all of those items. They're confirming that that just won't work. But they are confirming there's a 50% experience buff level 40 to 49. And the current double XP buff is going to stay in the game. Nomagon will also give experience points for each boss kill. Weirdly though, the raid is switching to a 1 week lockout for Sunken Temple rather than a 2-day lockout. I think a lot of people are probably going to be, well, not so happy about that. It's also going to be available day 1. That is something I'm very unhappy about. I was actually going to be in a world first race with my guild, but unfortunately I booked a holiday, and because the announcement has just come so quickly, like it's releasing in under a week, it's pretty much game over for that prospect. They have also confirmed that the raid itself will have bigger loot pools. Now, what about level 60 endgame? What do we know about this? Well, there's actually a lot of good news. So first of all, the bad news. All endgame raids are going to have a weekly reset. So this includes Onyxia and Zul'Gurub for some reason. I don't understand why they're doing that, to be perfectly honest. Apparently, it's going to be too complicated for everyone to understand the different lockouts and how that's happening. I mean, is it though? I mean, people just have Discord bots to do that for you now anyway, so I really don't understand why they've done that. At endgame, there's also going to be a method to unlock a system that gives you 2 weapon skill bonuses that you can choose. These will not stack with racials, but it basically means that you can pick whatever race you want. Well, more or less whatever race you want, and it's going to balance the factions and other racials to be much better, so this is a huge improvement to the game. These new weapon skill bonuses that you can pick will also stack with certain items that provide weapon skill. Priests can also do the same. They can just totally swap out their racials and pick other priest racials. Honestly, at this point, I feel like they should just let people choose whatever racials they want. I know it's like very immersion breaking, but sometimes gameplay quality just has to come over that. Off-spec tier sets are confirmed. Weirdly, they hinted that they're actually going to have a Shokadin Paladin set. They've said that all endgame level 60 loot is going to be totally revamped, so I can expect it all to be very, very different. This also includes endgame profession items, and they've also talked about how swapping your profession specialization is going to be much easier. That's going to be it, guys. Please do me an absolute solid and check out the video that I've made on my second channel where I attempt to complete Oblivion as the Adoring Fan. I spent a good 50 odd hours editing that one, so I would really appreciate it. It will also be on the end screen of this video. Anyway, until my next video, ciao.